Welcome to the September meeting of the Commission on Aging. Thanks to everybody for coming. Our first item of agenda is the discussion of the July minutes. Do we have any comments on the July minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the July minutes? Thank you, Peter. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Awesome. Allie has to leave a little bit early today, so I'm going to let Allie go first on the the Human Services report.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So one thing I do want to announce is that the town is offering another mental health first aid training, and that's on October 23rd and 24th, from 8:30 to 1, both days at Post 53. And if anyone's interested, they can just call my office or email me directly. And again, what that is basically like CPR for mental health. So it teaches lay people how to interact with someone who might be experiencing or dealing with some emotional issues. So everyone who's gone, as I think I've said before, has said it's been really wonderful and helpful. Maybe they're just being nice to me, but Paula Sutliff, the public health nurse, and I are the ones who lead it. So October 23rd and 24th. First come, first served. ARPA funds are paying for it. We just started our energy assistance applications for this year. Started on Monday with oil customers because we want to get them approved and ready to go so they can get deliveries starting on November 1st. And then any other utility, like electric, gas, propane, will be on October 15th. Just so you know, for a single person, the income limit it actually went up, I feel like it went up more than usual, it always goes up a little bit, is $45,505. And that's all types of income. And then it goes up by family size. So, and that just began, and there's plenty of time that goes into the spring, but people can call our office. And we did reach out to, we sent letters to all the people at the Royal, like we get updated lists, and then we do the same thing with people at the Heights. But okay, and then we now have 2 protective services for the elderly cases. It seems like we go in waves, as I said before, and this wave is lasting a little bit longer than usual, but as you know, they're very complicated and time consuming for our department. And we also have 3 active hoarding cases. One of them happens to be with the protective services also. And while we have we work with the fire marshal's department. It's human services and fire marshals that monitor these cases and deal with them. And we have more than 3 cases that ones that are doing okay, just periodic check-ins, like a couple times a year, but we have 3 right now that are active. And similar to protective services, they're very complicated, very involved. Hoarding actually is a mental health disorder, and it's a chronic condition. Takes a lot of sensitivity and hand-holding. But so those things are taking up a lot of our time. But and then my usual, the loan closet, it's amazing. I feel like people just know about it. I feel like it's almost every day we get somebody coming in or wanting to donate, which is great. Sometimes we have too many things and we only have so much space, so we'll tell people to go to Wheel It Forward in Stamford, and they serve non-Darien residents also. It's a nonprofit. And then emergency call list. I have to say it every time just so people know. I think it's still hurricane season until the end of October, but then before you know it, it's going to be winter. So those are the 2 times that we tend to call people most. So that's all I have.
Awesome. If I need you to report too,
Yep. I'm not leaving yet.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so thank you, Allie, your best. Appreciate it. So we skipped ahead to Allie, and now Beth has been kind enough to allow me to skip forward to Steve Mulvaney, Chairman of the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission, who's got a lot going on. So I look forward to hearing about all of his takes on the various projects around town. We know that he's going to have a lot of fun over with the Nielsen project. The question of the access to Hecker Avenue. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. And because we have lots of seniors in that neighborhood, we're very concerned about that. So here we go. Steve, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I do apologize for skipping over Beth. Beth's more important than I am.
That's not true. I wouldn't be here without you, so.
Thank you.
And it's a partnership.
Yes. And I was excited to hear about the 10th anniversary of the Mather Center. That was something that we worked on for probably, 14 years or something like that. And it's finally here. It's been here for 10 years. He was a big part of it also. Good morning. I just wanted to come in to say hi to you guys again. I do actually watch your meetings on television also, and am concerned about what you do. As the chairman of the P&Z, I like to try to cover the entire population in Darien, which is my generation, which I guess I'm getting older now because I'm becoming an empty nester. All my kids are gone, which is kind of upsetting, just like Mrs. Genovese over here. She has one home. She has one home. Your son only has one at home, I think now.
No, she's gone too.
She's
Wow,
gone too.
David's an empty nester as well. My
All
God.
left with the dogs.
Because my daughter's taking care of your granddaughter down at UVA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
But then, there are definitely a lot of young families in town. I think Darien's got the youngest population in the state in terms of parents' ages, and then the most kids in the state. And then there's the middle section, which is the 40s and 50s or something like that. Those people they're kind of fine. They don't need that much help. But the things that I want to touch on, I watch your meetings on TV, and I saw one of your things recently about 3-part plans, so I want to update people on that. That's kind of sparked it. I do like coming to your meetings probably every, twice a year. But the biggest thing that we're starting now, which I definitely going to want your input in, is the 2026 Town Plan of Conservation and Development. We do it every 10 years. The last one we did was 2016. The one obviously prior to that was 2006. I was an integral part of the 2016 plan, which a lot of the stuff you see coming out of the ground now is an offshoot of that and some other things that we did. Last night we interviewed 2 of the people that do the proposals. It's a very expensive project. The town budgeted about $125,000 to $150,000 to have these consultants do these things. They come from New York, Connecticut, all over the region, and do town plans. Our town plan is pretty solid. The one that we did in 2016 is definitely a working tool. The piece where you guys come in is in 2016 when we did it, and it takes about 16 to 18 months to do it. The consultant went to almost every single, from my recollection, every single board and commission in town. And they gave them a report, and they listened to the commissions and boards and said, what do you guys want to see in the 2016 Board Plan of Conservation and Development? We spoke to them last night. There were 2 groups last night. One of the groups said, oh, we didn't really factor that into our calculation of our price. The other group said, yeah, we're already planning on doing that. So it's either 2 ways. I really want them to meet with you guys because the world's changed in terms of surveying and outreach and whatnot. I'm still the old school kind of person that comes in. I'm not a Twitter X person where you just post something on some kind of message social media board and say like I like cats and dogs, and somebody else goes, oh, I don't like cats and dogs. That really doesn't help me. Plus, you don't know where those people are coming from. In our town, there are some people that say, I think, parking is really bad, or I think traffic is really bad. Other people say it's great, and they may not even live in Darien. So that's the one thing that I want the consultants to do with the commission on aging. But I'd like you guys to help me out and say, yes, we want the consultant to come and sit here for a special meeting.
Yes, we want the consultant to come and sit for a special meeting.
That's what I figured. Or you can go to the meeting and with us, or the one thing they put, they said, we can do a Zoom meeting. I'm not.
We don't do Zoom.
Yeah, I'm not a Zoom guy either. So that's one thing I want to make sure you keep on. That process, it's probably going to kick off, I'm going to say January 1st or December. They get their legs underneath them for 4 months, and then they go out and reach out to everybody. Because it's really community input. There will be a meeting in the auditorium, probably 1 or 2, where everybody can go. But I'd rather have them go to the boards and commissions because all you guys are vested in the town. somebody that moved into town in August and shows up a meeting in October and, you know, has a lot of ideas, they're not really vested in town, they just landed up here and they're new. So that's one thing. The other item is that we did most recently on the P&Z was we approved the ADUs, which are accessory dwelling units. It's really designed for multi-generational groups in our town. We had our first few applications come in, and it's really for an in-law apartment. That's what it was at the beginning. And a couple of my friends have had them. I actually lived in an in-law apartment in my own parents' house. When I got out of college, my first brother did it, then I did it. My mother was like, "You're sleeping downstairs. You're not going up to your own bedroom. That's where Nanny lives." But I came in and out of my own bathroom. I had my own door, my own parking space. The only thing I didn't have was a kitchen. As a 25-year-old, I really didn't cook anyway because I ate out every day. So the application that we got in recently is for a really nice woman. She's probably, I'm going to say, you know, same age as me. Her parents live in like Astoria, Queens or something like that. She wants to move the parents into her house. But the parents are very independent, and they don't want to live with their, you know, son-in-law. So they're building an ADU on top of their garage with a kitchen and everything, and it's attached, and it's also a safety factor because the woman, the mother or the daughter, is driving to Astoria every single day, checking on her grants. And that's what it is. The other thing that happens is I have some friends that live in Westport. They have these big, you know, 5 or 6 bedroom houses. They can't take care of it anymore. So what they're doing is they're creating an ADU in the house. The owner of the house is moving into the ADU, and they're renting out the other piece of the house. The other thing that happens is you may have someone that lives in an ADU in your house, and you're a snowbird, you're not to Florida, someone's taking care of your house where you're not. It's not to say it's a great idea to do it, but it is expensive to put in addition for your in-laws, for a kitchen and bathroom and all the other stuff and access. It's probably, in our town, it's probably $100,000 investment. And your taxes will go up, and you may or may not get rent for the person who do it, but it's something that we really did for seniors, because I think it's a good thing. You know, you might have some teachers that live in it, other people that live in the ADUs, which is fine, but when I drafted it, it was really for seniors and college graduates that came back. To go into some of the projects that are in town, the most recent one that started, that kicked off, is 7 Sedgwick. That's at the entrance to the Goodwife Shopping Center. It's the old Bank of America branch. It's knocked down. They're going to build 18 apartments there in 2 stories, and it's actually 2 stories over a parking structure or a parking garage. That's a really, really high-end design project. If you look,
That's where the old bank was?
That's where the old bank was. If you look at it, the architecture review board and the architect, which is our people, and the architect of the building, they raised the level of the finishes in that thing astronomically. And part of it is because that's the way the town is today. You know, Penny Glassmeyer, when she did Grove Street Plaza, when you go way back when, and David Genovese now, that stuff's high-end stuff. It's expensive, it's gonna be nice. The thing that we did with that project, every single project in town, when most of them they started the process, it was 12% affordable. Now we raised it up to 14% affordable. You can either build them on-site, off-site, or you can give us cash. We're getting, for that developer, we're getting cash from the developer. He's gonna pay the town $905,000. And that money goes into a thing that's called an Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Today, there's $105,000 in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So with that project, when they put the money in, which is not going to be until the building's basically finished, you have $1.1 million in the trust fund. You spoke a little bit ago about the Royal. The Royal was built partially with money from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. When the developer built it, he said, you know, there's money in the fund, could we have it to build our project and make it a little bit more affordable and more feasible, and that's where the money goes. It takes a while to place the money, but it's something that I've had an eye on and I look forward to doing again. Relative to Thorndale Circle, yes, that's about a 9-acre project. There's 7 office buildings in that park. It's right next to the Darien Library, it's right next to Darien Police Station, and right next to the Darien Library. The land's way in the back of the total project, which is 7 buildings. They're gonna knock down 5 of the buildings. The plan is to knock down 5 of the buildings and to replace those 5 buildings with 5 apartment buildings. It's a total of, the proposal today is a total of 175 units, of which 25 of those units will be affordable housing. In a big project like that, the view of the Planning and Zoning Commission is to have those units on site. God bless you. In little projects, God bless you, in little projects like 7 Sedgwick, you're only gonna get 2 affordable units in there. You know, so to put in people that are paying, you know, big rents, and then 2 people with affordable rents, that's like, you know, the demographics, they're supposed to work, but it's definitely different. So that's why we can put the cash from a 7 Sedgwick to a better use than putting 2 or 3 units in that building. With regards to the Thorndale Circle project, with 175 units, you know, it's all blends together. And you're not gonna tell which one's which and which one's not, which one's different on that. And at Avalon, which is 189 units, there's 30% affordable people inside that project. Nobody would know that. You cannot tell from the inside. And you can't tell from the inside either. So that's the thing that we look at. What I also would like to do with some of the money that's in the trust fund, and this, remember, this takes years. I was telling somebody the other day, when we first started on Corbin District, which is a project going on now, our first meeting on Corbin District was August 2015. We had a special meeting when I was on vacation in Rhode Island, had to come back because David Genovese wanted this meeting now because that's when the architect was available. So I came back on vacation on August 15. It's now, what, October 14? You know, and they built built 4 buildings so far, actually 5 buildings so far, and they have another 7 to go. So these things take a really long time. But with regards to some of the money, I would like to do, if we're gonna do another affordable project with that money, and by the time we get there, there's a couple other projects that might put money into the fund. I would like to do something where it's a seasonable affordable project similar to the Royal. We're not really chasing moratorium points. We're chasing affordable units that people can have and to serve the population. At the outset of what I said at the beginning, you know, I look at all the demographics in town. I do look at the older population. I do look at the younger population. I think the older population, me personally, that would like to stay in town. Some people, I always go back to my friend Gene Coyle. Gene Coyle passed away 4 years ago. He was a great guy. He was a Marine. He had a great pension. He was real estate rich, and he did not have a whole lot of income because he was living on Social Security. You know, when he eventually passed away, he sold his house for $1.6 million or something like that, or $1.2 million, whatever it was. But that went on to his kids. So that's kind of what happens. If people say I can't afford to live in town anymore because my taxes are $12,000 a year. That's a lot of money for a house that's $1.2 million. So that's one of the things I would like to do with that money. The other thing to talk about too, and I kind of sort of wanted to open up this meeting to you guys, but I know Joe's very tight on his time schedule, but I want to keep going through some of the things that I want to talk about. The Great Island Project. We paid $84 or $84 million for the project, for the piece of land. It's a beautiful piece of land. I was a huge proponent of buying that island because of a variety of reasons. It's irreplaceable, and if it went to a third-party developer, you could have seen 180 townhouses there. That's part of the way the zoning was written. What we have to do with that island is get access in there, get the road widened, and get parking lots in there. I love my father-in-law. He's 89 years old. If I want to take him to the island for a walk, I'd have to drive to the front, drop him off, let him walk in by himself, go back to the parking lot, park the car, then walk back there. That's probably a half an hour process. We approved the road to get widened to go into it in the spring. What the plan was is to fast track the road widening in the spring and then get the contractors in to do it right away. The problem is with roads and sidewalks, most of the contractors fill up their spring schedule in the fall of the prior year. So when we were ready to go bid the project, which was March 1st, April 1st, something like that, all the contractors were already busy. So they didn't have time. So that's why it got bumped to the fall. They bid out the contracts again. Ed Gentile, who's our Director of Planning, Public Works, is ready to go. There's a couple of issues there that they have to clear out, and one of them is the trees. I don't know when it happened, but it happened. That something happened with trees in town, that people would come out of the woodwork to save an oak tree. It did happen when I was on the plan, when I was on the, I think before, the Planning Zoning Housing Committee on the RTM, where there was a tree in the middle of Allen O'Neill that people wanted to save because I guess somebody climbed the tree when they were little kids, and it was basically dead. But there was a whole big thing about it, and it comes up. It also happened again on Corbin District, on Corbin Drive. There were trees on the left-hand side, and somebody didn't want those trees taken down. I think that one of the issues is now, and it was on the front page of the papers last week, with near Water Lane, there's 2 trees that are buckling the sidewalks, are coming down. People came out of the woodworks to save these 2 or 5 trees, whatever it is. It's the same exact thing going into Great Island. If you go to Great Island on the left-hand side, there are, I think, 4 trees, and someone appealed it, so that's holding up the road going in. We will get past all this stuff. Relative to trees, for the most part, if a tree comes down in any project in town, we either replace it with 1 or 2. So you're not losing anything. But people don't like change. And if they've been staring at this thing for years, you have to have a good reason to come down. 90% of the time we do have an arborist report come in to say, yes, it's overbuilt, oh, it's overbuilt, it's not gonna last. And a lot of times when you cut these things down, you look at it, the center of it is already hollowed out, which would have mean you would have fell down anyway. It holds up progress, but it's something you have to deal with. The next thing is we still try to promote our town and fast track as best we can some of the new businesses in town. Last night, I'm happy to report that we approved a woman. I think she's from like the Scandinavia. She's a chocolatier. She's going to open up a chocolatier store that's 3 doors down from where Heights Pizza is. The nicest lady you ever met. I think she was like 6'4", and she's a chocolatier. It's right next to a flower shop. So I said to her, we need to have you open by Halloween. She goes, we can't. We have to get the stuff that they make it with. And I said, okay, fine, you can't open by Halloween. Get open by Thanksgiving. She goes, I don't know about, we can't do that either. So at the end of the day, she says she's going to be open by no, not even by
Valentine's
by
Day.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's
I'm like,
Day.
you're killing her. So if I said we have some women on the commission. One of them is a really good friend of mine, Amy Barsanti, and her husband Anthony loves buying his wife gifts, and so she wants to make sure that he goes in there and buys her chocolates, which are fantastic, and then goes next door and buys flowers. It's funny thing about it, inside her plans, there was a picture of a wine cooler, because you have to save to do a layout of your plan. So you're also going to be selling wine and champagne. And she goes, no, that's what we keep the chocolate in because it's a special temperature. So that's something that's really fun. The other day we also just approved, 2 weeks ago, was the DCA. They're going to have another dance studio up the road across the street from where Nino's Pizza is, inside that little shopping center. The DCA, my kids went to the DCA, my 3 little girls, and danced. They were running out of space because at the beginning they said we had a ton of little kids. So we approved them to have a dance studio in there. you think it's hard, you think it's simple, but it's actually hard, because the way the zoning codes are written, if there's 20 kids in a class, you need like 20 parking spaces. And so you have to prove to the world that the 20 kids in the class are under the age of 12, and they don't drive cars. And the mom drops off the kid, or the dad drops off the kid, and leaves. So for a dance studio that holds 24 kids, you need like 2 parking spaces. But the zoning was not written like that, so it ends up being a special permit. So it takes a little bit of time, but we fast track that, because same thing with a lot of programming that the senior center does, is they want to get their programming done by October 1st, so everybody can sign up, and so if a new dance studio come in, we can take our classes. The other thing that recently opened was Bear Burger over at the Darien Commons. It's a new healthy hamburger joint. I don't know what they make with it, but
Some French fries on the menu.
It's kind of
I
tough.
want to try it.
Yeah, they'll have
They're healthy French fries.
they'll have a lot of lettuce. There's another one of those in Westchester. There's also one in Stanford. That's another addition to that shopping center, which I think is really fun. What else? With the 3 big projects in town, the federal project, which is Darien Commons, is basically done. There's maybe 2 or 3 spaces that are still available for lease. All the apartments are filled. They're on their 2nd generation of leasing. I think most of the people are renewing their leases. There is a little small dog park attached to that park. I saw my friend last night, and he was walking his dog in the parking lot. And I said, why don't you walk your dog in the dog park that's all the way to the left? He goes, oh, I forgot about that. And there's a place to walk around and whatnot. I think at Corbin District, when that finished, I think you will see a dog park there too in the back, because that's the way things go today. That is a total of 116 units in the 2 apartment buildings, and it's about 100,000 square feet of retail space, which they added another, I think they added another 60,000 square feet to the 40 that was already there. The thing you're going to see next on that project is the Equinox building in the back is going to get a little facelift on the outside. If you look at the top of it, you can see all the mechanicals that are really ugly, but the roof is shot. So they have to take the mechanicals off, they have to put a new roof on, put the mechanicals back on, then we're going to wrap it in a facade so you can't see any of that stuff. The other thing that's going to happen is the Citibank building that's in the front. It's basically geared towards Heights Road. It's going to get reconfigured. The facades are going to match, the windows are going to match with the other buildings, and you can see that the backside of that redone. And there were offices up on the 2nd floor, which is my doctor was in there years ago. That whole 2nd floor is empty. So you're going to see some new office space in there. They're not supposed to put any apartments in there. If they did, it's okay. If they don't, it's okay. But that building's going to get a facelift. The Palmer's project, which is done by a gentleman named John Vaccaro and his son Joe Vaccaro, is up and running. They topped off all of the buildings. Now they're putting facades on the buildings. It's clapboard siding. The roofs are up, and in the back of it, there's a parking garage that you're going to see that comes up in the back. It's really a parking deck, and on the top floor of the parking deck is going to be some apartments. So it is a parking structure. It's not going to look like a parking structure. There's a lot of engineering that had to go into that, because if you ever look at the site, or you ever go to Palmer's, the West Avenue behind it is about 20 feet in the air. So they built the parking garage up against West Avenue, and they had to be careful, because if you weren't careful, all those houses on West Avenue would end up falling onto Heights Road. So that's a really expensive design that they had to get done there. But that's going pretty well. That's also going to have, we also approved, there's 2 courtyards in that. If you ever see the pictures, and the pictures are out there a lot on different platforms. There's 2 courtyards. The center courtyard is going to have a water feature, and there's 2 restaurants on either side of the water feature. And we just approved their outdoor dining for those courtyards. So
Sounds like Penny's project.
it's very much like Penny's project. It's a little bit raised up a little bit. So you go up, and then the courtyard, really some of the seating's down. It should look really nice, and it is pretty similar to Penny's project. Penny's project, to switch that really quick, They're also getting an outdoor, a new restaurant too, which is where the old fondue place was. And that's gonna be a, quote unquote high-end steakhouse, and they're gonna have a lot of outdoor seating there too. The one thing about that restaurant, which I think is kinda cool, is there will be no TVs in the restaurant.
Oh, God, you gotta be kidding me.
The reason why, no, this is important, this is
On
important.
Saturday and Sunday nights, they're gonna die.
This is important. The reason why you go to that restaurant is to talk to the guy next to you.
No, it's to watch sports and talk to the guy next to
Go to bear bar. Go to bear bar. I just went out to my kids' college in Purdue, and the best bar in town is a place called Harry's Chocolate Factory. It was opened during Prohibition, and there's a place to go down into the basement. And that place has got no bar stools. So when you walk in there, you stand at the bar and you talk to the guy next to you, just like Big Sorley's in the city. Remember that place?
Sure.
That's the reason behind it. So that is kind of exciting.
Cool.
With regards to the Corbin district, they are phase 1 and phase 2 are done. Everybody's seen that a million times. Phase 3 is what we kind of sort of call it. Some people call it phase 2, some people call it phase 5. Is really coming out of the ground now. You can see the concrete going up on the left and the right. They in that project, there's another 76 apartments that will be in a building in the back. There's about 4 restaurants, and there's an 80,000 square foot office building that's going to be, I think, 4 or 4.5 stories tucked in the back. That office building is basically pre-leased with some tenants that are in town, some tenants that are coming from Stanford, and some tenants that are coming from Greenwich. The best part about having an office building in a mixed-use project is those people are there during the day. Then at night, everybody goes home at 6 o'clock, all the parking opens up, and people go to the restaurants. And at lunchtime, you can go shopping. That's why that building is going to be successful. I work as best I can with Baywater Properties and David Genovese's team, because if you promise somebody office space that's going to be open in October 2026, and their lease expires someplace else in September 2026, you better have that office building ready, because someone's getting kicked out. One of the tenants that is going to the building is doing what we call a double move. They're in Stanford today, they're moving to Norwalk for 2 years, and then they're going to go here again. I work in the commercial real estate industry, and my firm actually represented that tenant, and it's very, very complicated to get someone to move, but that tenant really wanted to be in Darien, and that's what they chose, and they said, poker by crook, that's what we'll do it. So from where I sit, for a lot of reasons, I want to be able to support our developers in town to get their stuff done, because there's a lot of moving parts. So whatever we can ever do for that is kind of important to me. The 7 Cedric project, I talked about that at the beginning. That's 18 units. That's a piece of grass right now. The developer's out for construction financing. 3 Parklands is the office building that's behind Selleck Woods. It is still an office building today. The major tenant inside that is the Yarlsberg Cheese Company. If you're going to go to Palmer's, if you ever go to Stop and Shop, or if you go to Whole Foods, that's whose headquarters in there. They're on the ground floor. They're still there today. They have a couple more, I think, a little bit more time on the lease. The first developer that proposed the project actually passed away, and the estate sold it to another developer that's known in town, but they have to build the plans exactly the way we approved it for the first guy. I can assure you that project will be done very professionally, and on schedule and on plan. We put belts and suspenders around that project that if they go awry, we're gonna be the first ones to know about it. There's actually a site monitor that we made the developer pay to go there like once a week and do a report on it. If there's blocking in the driveway, or there's too much noise, or there's debris or something like that, we're gonna know about it before anybody else.
Yeah, I met with the fire marshal on that as well. And so they're very well aware of the concerns of the senior residents there as far as the blasting of the rocks and et cetera, and so they're going to be carefully monitoring all of that.
Yeah, all these projects are pretty complicated and important to all of us. With regards to Corbin District Phase 1, the first piece that they did 2 houses that were for special needs or developmentally disabled people on East Lane. And they had to do blasting there. It actually went very, very well. What they do is they do site monitoring, they go over all the houses in the neighborhood, check and make sure your foundation's fine, then they do their blasting, they go back there and check it again. If a crack came up, then that's a developer's problem. So we're gonna do the same thing here. There was a person that was dead set against it for a variety of reasons. That lawsuit got settled 2 weeks ago. The judge ruled in favor of the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission and said we acted perfectly in that and you know, upheld all of our decisions on that. These things happen, lawsuits happen, we try to make sure we do it, but me personally, you know, I like to make sure that our decisions are well-founded, well-researched, and well-guided. And it's rewarding to me when a third-party judge that has really no skin in the game says, you know, you did the right thing. The other quick thing that I want to just go over really quick is there are a bunch of pieces of land and projects that are still for sale in town. As a commercial real estate person, I like to be in front of that stuff and know what's going to happen or what could happen before it happens. The Wells Fargo building in the center of town is for sale. A bunch of people looked at it, the price is really high, they can never really knock it down, but you could convert it into a lot of different things. I've seen a bunch of bank branches like that get converted into restaurants. Some make it, some don't. The price of the asking price of the property is rather high. If it's high, the rent for the restaurant's gotta be high, and they're gonna sell a lot of hamburgers or academics, and that could be a problem. The subway site, the old subway site where the dry cleaners was, over on Heights Road, that piece of land is for sale. It's scraped today, there's nothing there, they remediated it. Someday, you'll see something coming out of the ground there. The way that was priced by a broker, it was really, really high. And to make it feasible, you would have had to build like a 5-story building, lot line to lot line to lot line, with no parking, and that just doesn't work. Because it's a cost-benefit thing, and being in the business I'm in, I can tell what it is. And I said to the brokers, I said, there's no way you're ever gonna get something like that approved there. There's a white building in town that's next door to Heights Pizza. It's called, the address is 870. That building was for sale. The for sale sign's down now on the building. But we monitor stuff like that to see what they can do there. There was a developer or a broker that put forth a package that wanted to scrape the building and build like 18 apartments or something like that there. It's a 1/4 acre of land. It just doesn't work. 7th Cedric is a 1/2 acre of land, and they're building 18 units on that. So if a 1/4 acre land, the math doesn't match. The Junior League building, if you keep going down the road, that's a little white building. That's got a huge piece of land. It's a small building. It's a big piece of land, but there's a lot of wetlands and land that can't be developed there. A lot of people have looked at that and want to buy it, but there's no zoning approvals for it. So something like that is something that we keep our eyes on. There's a building on Tokenie Road that's for sale. That is right before exit 12 on the right-hand side. There's a blue sign outside, it's for sale. People want to convert that to affordable housing. They want to convert it to a Montessori school. Again, the guy that built it spent a lot of money. It's been vacant for a long time. So that's something that we're looking at. If you look at that, back in my day, which, you know, I guess I'm younger than you guys, next door to it was the Italian deli. That building's been vacant for years. So I told the people that wanted to buy the Tokenie building to buy the Italian deli next door, and they also have parking. But that makes it harder. The Italian deli building's been vacant for years, and to me, it's honestly an eyesore. But it is what it is. There's another building that's for sale, which is across the street from Trader Joe's. It's next to Garden Homes Apartments. It's a little office building. That's for sale. That's probably something that could get converted to apartments. Office buildings that size really don't, people really don't want them unless you're an owner user, but we keep our eyes on stuff like that.
Okay, I gotta cut you off because we're gonna keep going. I can imagine how many
I
other
figured
pieces
that.
of land you know about. So, questions from the commission. I'll open first of all. The biggest controversy I'm seeing beyond the trees on Great Island is Thorndale Circle, right?
Yep.
How are you guys going to balance the interests of the neighbors who clearly are very, quite frankly, offended by the idea of that access onto Hecker, which is going to turn Hecker, which is already pretty busy, between the library and the police station and folks running between the two exits there when 95 gets packed up. How are you going to balance the folks around that neighborhood with, quite frankly, Jerry Nielsen's wish to maximize that property?
Two things on that. The developer and the applicant on that is a company called Trammell Crow, which is a division of CBRE, which is my company.
Okay.
So
So are you
I'm actually recused.
You're recused.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm stuck because it's a lose-lose situation for
Right.
me.
So you should probably be silent from that point on.
The only thing I can tell you
Okay.
about it, which is fine, is we will do a traffic study, or the developer will do a traffic study on that. And the town will have a peer review of the traffic study. And there's a lot of ways to handle it. And over at Avalon, when Avalon was built, which is 189 units, Avalon paid to put in 2 traffic lights there. One at the end of Heights Road and one at the end of the train station. What is gonna end up happening, I don't know, but I can guarantee you that the Planning and Zoning Commission will keep a very strong eye on it. The public always gets listened to, but it has to be within reason. Like we just closed the hearing on the car wash that's up on the Post Road, which is the old Portucci site. The developer came in with the car wash and said, we want to put a traffic light, we want to put a traffic light, we want to put it. That's the only way we're going to put the car wash. They went to the state, and the state said, you can't put a traffic light in. The developer said, well, pay for it. They go, you still can't put it in.
That's gonna be the big problem there too.
Correct.
Because it's a post road, is the access on Thorndale Circle. Exactly.
That was the same thing with regards to 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven only had one entrance that was going to come in, and that was a traffic problem. So if it's a definable traffic problem, it'll be done. I can tell you today, right now, that access you're talking about exists today. It's a fire exit.
Interesting.
It's a fire exit out of there, and it does come out. And if you look at it, there is a path there that has bollards on it.
Okay.
And we actually made that access point for the library. The library asked us to do it when they have overflow parking. That's where their overflow
Got it.
parking is.
Good.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
I know that Trammell Crow's finished, or Nielsen's finished their presentations and approvals with the environmental commissions, but they haven't gone before P&Z. That's
Right.
coming up. So they're gonna have probably 2 or 3, maybe 3
Well, they'll have
P&Zs.
to,
And my question is it a done deal that it's 175 units?
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think that's something that has to always be put into the mix. That's just what I thought too.
I can tell you that one of the initial projects that came out of there, it was supposed to be 330.
Yeah.
So it changed. So part of the thing is the other one piece, and I really want to see if you guys have any questions, is we do get a lot of pressure from Hartford to build housing. They want to change the entire zoning for the state of Connecticut. The one thing they also said that they want the entire state of Connecticut to be able to build multifamily housing at a ratio of 30 units per acre.
I have to say,
I
the
s-
the environmental studies they did was very thorough.
Yeah, they did a good job.
I mistakenly went to a drainage meeting. I learned a lot.
So at 30 units an acre,
90,000.
10 acres, it's 30 units an acre, at 10 acres, it's 300 units. It's not rocket science.
Our state right now is 90,000 housing units short for people that really need housing. So,
Right, see, that's, when we did the town plan conservation development, all the developers, all the people that presented last night, there's an affordable housing component in it, or affordability component in it. The only way to create more stuff that's affordable is to it's supply and demand, right? If you build more apartments in New York City, the rents will eventually come down, right? If you build more housing in Darien, the new house is gonna be priced at $2 million. And the average or median price of house in town is $1.6 million, right? If you build more apartments, right, then 14% of those are gonna be affordable. We kind of sort of ran out of land, right? Everything is a redevelopment. And yeah, there's 90,000 things, there's a front page article in the New York Times today from who's a congressman, AOC, and somebody else that talks about that. But to me, Darien is Darien, right? If you have extra land in Hartford, you have extra land in Bridgeport, you have extra land in Stanford, you have extra land in Norwalk, and you can build 17 stories, knock yourself out. You know, it doesn't have to be in Darien, right? Ridgefield has no sewers. They don't have high housing. Wilton now they passed a 5-story regulation to get more housing there because your school population is going up. They want housing. If you go by that building, and I love the building, and I was part of the project when the thing sold, it is big. And it's right on the road, and it's right there. It's their first 5-story building. So, you know.
Yeah, two questions. What, the accessory dwelling units, those can be rented?
Yes.
So if you have one, you can, or you build one on, you can rent them.
Yes.
And then the affordable housing, who monitors that who takes care of who rents them, who gets them, and is it only a limited period of time? Do those remain affordable, in perpetuity, or what is the?
They mostly remain affordable for 30 years.
30 years, okay.
From the start of.
And who monitors, is it the developer who?
It's a variety relative to a company like Avalon. They have an own division inside Avalon that monitors that, and they monitor the state because it's a national company and they go around the country. That project recently sold. The new owner is going to do the same thing. Relative to federal, it's the same thing. It's a national company that does it. With regards to smaller developers and smaller projects.
Like Darien Commons, for example.
Darien Commons that's federal. That's a national company.
Mm-hmm.
The Heights, that is done by the Darien Housing Authority. They monitor it, and everybody has to.
Well, that's the house. I know about that, but I'm talking about the individual developments.
Right.
Okay. With regards to there's another project that's called I think the address is 1980 Post Road. It's across the street where Danny's Bicycle Shop is. The ground floor is still vacant. There's one affordable housing unit inside that project at the top. The developer is a gentleman named by John McCarr. He has to prove to the town every year that unit is rented to an affordable housing person that still fits within the criteria and has to file a piece of paper, which eventually goes up to the state. There's a lot of, and you guys know, there's a lot of income limits and housing sizes to go in there. So if you're a single person, your income's gonna be $45,000. Say you get a bonus or a raise and you make $55,000 next year, you're actually technically supposed to get kicked out, right?
I just
So-
wonder who is monitoring that over time, though. It just feels
It's-
like kind of a loosey-goosey.
No, it's not at all, because
No?
we have, Avalon's been around for 20 years, actually 21 years. And that's monitored all the time. The concept for affordable housing in general is to get people back up on their feet. It's not supposed to be something that's permanent. You're supposed to go in there if you're making $45,000 and then your goal is to make 80, then you move out and you let somebody else move out. There's a difference between that and senior affordable, but it is very closely monitored. They have to file with the town every single year. It goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, or Planning and Zoning Department, and then eventually it's filed with the state.
But how does the general public know where there are units to apply for even?
Part of it is the at-home Darien. Part of it is what's
Yeah.
Ally's office called? The-
Human Services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Services.
Yeah, at the very end, just-
That's Human Services.
Yeah.
But the there are, relative to senior affordable, there's only 2 in town, or 3 in town, right? Relative to the other items, you can kind of name the projects that have affordable units in it, like, one's called Garden Homes, which is an 830G project, which the address is like 790 Post Road. It's an office building that was converted, they have really small apartments in there, that is affordable. And if you go to P&Z, where are the affordable units, they can point you to that. But that's the same application process. It's another regional developer called Garden Homes. They have a website, and a leasing office, and the sign up front says apartments for lease. It doesn't say affordable apartments for lease out front, because that would be discriminating.
Yeah.
But it does exist. Yeah, but it's, if you call either Human Services or P&Z,
They would identify them.
yeah. And the ADU units, those are not deemed affordable by any stretch of imagination.
No, market rate.
Yeah.
So how does, on Great Island, how does the town work with P&Z when obviously the town owns the land, right? But the developments themselves, I would assume, would be subject to P&Z. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So how is that process all going to work when, quite frankly, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions, but John, 2 doors down from Steve, walks into Steve, hey, what about a restaurant? Right, how does that whole process work with the town having to go to P&Z?
The town goes to P&Z for almost everything they do that has significant value. The only difference that the town gets is if there's a bunch of people, they get put to the top of the list. We do the town business and school business first.
Okay.
So they get priority. With regards to what the town puts forth, I can tell you and guarantee you that we have changed plans that the town has put forth
Mhm.
numerous times.
Okay.
When they did, and I feel bad for them because they're barking to me about it, and I'll take blame. But on Henley School, the engineering they did for Henley School with the flooding was terrible. We had to redo it, and it probably cost the project $10 million or some crazy number like that. But it was bad, it would have flooded out the street. Relative to uses in there, and my experience with like a Waveney Park or Rye Beach, it's a lot of the restaurants, as you're an example, they end up being license agreements for a couple of years because they're seasonal. The way that most of those deals are done is that the operator will renovate the building, the town may give them some money or something like that, and if they make it for a year, they make it for a year. If they don't make it they don't come back the next year. You do it at Rye Beach, the restaurant that's there, the name changes every 3 years, because it's hard. And it's not, the town's not in it, and Rye Beach is not in it to make a profit on it. They just don't want to lose anybody.
Sure.
Right? So if they charge, $5 for a hamburger, great. All they do is pay a license agreement. There was a deal that I did in Stanford where it was Cisco Brewery is up in Nantucket, and there was a guy who had a house in Nantucket. Goes, oh, come to Stanford, and they did a license agreement. Cisco Brewery really didn't make it in Stanford. So they closed after a couple of years. It's going to open up to something else. But anything that happens on Great Island that isn't significant or unsignificant is going to come from P&Z.
Got it.
They're not going to put up a doghouse without
Okay.
us knowing about it.
Got it.
It would be the same as if it's like Weed Beach, if you look at the
Sure.
food place there, it's like Pear Tree.
Yep, exactly.
Those are all license agreements.
And they change all the time.
And it's market driven. I mean, you can take a risk and do it or not.
Upper's Deli does it 1 year, and somebody else does it another year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, now.
And Weed Beach has been consistent because it's a nicer facility and they really work hard at it. It just doesn't work at Pear Tree Point.
But they have the same thing at the high school too, and the concession stand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's,
So the process is there. I mean, they're treated fairly, I think.
the only difference in what we're talking about is those restaurants with the hoods and stoves and all that stuff exist.
Yeah.
Right down, there's a perfect building at the end of Great Island, which got a green roof. I would love to see a tiki bar there.
Yeah.
I would do it in a heartbeat, right? But someone's gotta take that building, which is an old boathouse, and converted, and that's, to build a restaurant, it's about $1 million.
Right. It's a lot of tiki strings to sell.
That's all you need.
I mean, I probably ran past my time, but if you guys have any questions, I'm always available. You know, Joe's got my direct line, whenever he wants to. And I have his also. But I mean, I want to make sure that we're doing what you guys want us to do, and not do anything crazy. When we did the town plan and conservation and development last night, the people came in like, you know, where do you want your town to be in the next 10 years? I want to be in the same place. I don't want to be any different. You know, we're not trying to rebuild a watch. You know, the town's great. That's why people live here. That's why people want to stay here. Some of their examples were, if you ever been to Mamaroneck, or if you ever been to Wilton, Mamaroneck, their downtown was dead as a doornail. You know, and they did a master plan, and I was actually part of it a long time ago, and Harrison did the same thing, and now it's thriving. Westport's got a little bit of a different issue. You're not allowed to build 2-story buildings on Main Street in Westport. You know, so a lot of those buildings are all 1 story. There's some that's 1.5. They want to change the zoning code to make them 3 stories. So you guys knock down buildings and apartments code to make it more active. Westport's parking is tough as nails as it is today. So you're gonna put in apartments there too. You know, we did that 20 years ago under Fred Concy's watch. You know, and Fred's a great guy. I still talk to him all the time. We don't need, in my opinion, we don't need to change much. There's not much more we can do.
But we definitely want to be heard, so when you pick whoever is doing this, say Pankowski wants to see you in May, okay? Okay, but we'd love to see him in May and put him in touch with me, because we'd like to be at the front of that as opposed to the middle or the end of that, so they hear from us first. That would be great. So you got your marching orders from the Commission on Aging, yes?
They actually said that. They said, oh, once the draft is all done, then we'll go out and meet everybody. I'm like, no. I don't know what you planned on, but this is...
You didn't watch Channel 79
Yeah.
last week on the tree issue. If you think that that's going to work,
Yeah.
you better get ahead of it.
Better be in front of it, not behind it.
Yeah.
Any last questions for Steve? Hearing none. Steve, thank you so much for
Thanks,
coming.
Steve.
Great seeing you, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, we will call you up on that anytime, sometime in the spring, I'm
I know
sure.
you.
Good to see you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, brother.
You too, man.
See you later. Awesome. And we'll now turn to Beth for a report on the Matter Center.
Right, I'll give you a little summary. We have had a very active September. We have a new program specialist hired. She came in early August. Training and orientation is taking place ongoing. The thing that we're just finding a little difficulty with it is we are so busy, which is wonderful, that there's not time to do training the way that you would really like to do training. And everybody comes in with a different background, so we're working on that right now. But I had, because when Caitlin left in May, I had booked us out with so many programs and offerings. We are so really ridiculously booked that there's lots going on. So the October newsletter is out. I encourage people to go online or come into the center, because we have some really fabulous programs planned. We have also still in September, but October is packed. So if you're interested in doing something different, we actually have therapeutic boxing starting on Fridays with a specialist who's actually a balanced professional specializing in people that have had Parkinson's disease or been diagnosed. But you don't need to have that issue at all to do this. So just take a look at that. Today we do have a Powering Connections was the national theme for this month, and I wanted to say thank you to Allie. We did have a wonderful panel discussion with our fire marshal, the director of our EOC, Allie, and Mindy, our new director of public health. That was very well attended and very well received. That's been on Channel 79 if you haven't seen it. It was really informative and really great questions came out of that. So there's that. And just look ahead to a really, really busy fall and early winter. I really want people to make sure that they see on our website, we usually have 2 of our newsletters, so September's there, October's there. start to really go on. If you like the website, go on the website. Unfortunately, they all have to look the same, so we can't bold out. So I get this question sometimes, why isn't the newsletter bold or the menus bolded? It's because we have to have the same website look as every other town department. But we try to put the newsletters especially at the top, and when you click on them, you can make these as big as you need to make them. You can flip through one page at a time, so that the actual website is user-friendly, but sometimes to find them, but they're usually up there. And we still do take telephone calls, so if someone takes a newsletter or has a newsletter at home, wants to leave a voicemail, we'll sign you up and we'll make sure that we let you know we signed you up. There are some programs that are coming up that are space limited, and we're still doing the same thing where Darien residents get the first 2 weeks priority sign up, and then our non-resident members. And just to keep you up to date with that, we had 233 people that were non-resident members that had signed up our last budget year. At this point, we have 245, we're gonna be stopping at 250. But not all of those that were the original 233 re-signed, so there's some new people. And Darien residents were increasing by the number with people moving their parents here. So there's people that are already taking, either don't have accessible dwelling units yet, but have their parents living with them. And there's it was interesting what Steve said, like these people are independent, and they're gonna be living above a garage. We're finding most often when people are moving people here closer to them, they have some sort of either physical need or cognitive need. So we're seeing people coming into the center with a child representative in doing our tour around, and letting them know what we do in the center. So there's a lot of people coming in that way. I think it was like 25 people over the summer that came in with children that live here that have just moved their parents here. Now they are looking at other living possibilities for their parents, but a lot of people move people in with them too. So it's good to know that we still have that value, but you really need to know that those folks coming into the center need a little bit more supervision and TLC, at least until we get them running, and sometimes we're watching out where we're starting to make referrals, even to Ally. So it's just a trend that's happening with all this building that's happening, just to, in all sincerity. So, but we are booming, so it is busy.
Awesome. Questions for Beth? Hearing none, thank you, Beth.
Welcome.
Other business, Peter, you got something for us?
I do, and I worry, Joe, that we may be running out of time, but I do have some important
Go for
things to do. And I don't know where our recording secretary is.
She's on video.
Okay,
Thanks to
so-
TV 79, she'll be getting the link.
So I
and
have
then-
some notes for her and for you as well.
Okay, I can only give them I can send them to them by PDF, and I can send them along. You got it.
Let me have one of those back.
Sure, you can give it to me later.
Let me start by saying that there are, I think, four important upcoming events affecting seniors, and one of them in this town. And the one in this town is going to be October 23rd, on Wednesday in the afternoon, and it's for all ages. It's doing its listening session on connecting conversations. And this is to deal with isolation and loneliness. And this program is going around the state. This will be the first one down here in Fairfield County. So that's October 23rd. Second of all, October 16th and October 17th, that's a Wednesday and Thursday, AARP is having its nationwide livable communities workshop. It's free, it's virtual, it's online, and on October 16th in the afternoon, there's a panel discussion, which is Inclusion, Keystone to Truly Intergenerational Communities. There are three speakers on that panel. I'm going to represent Darien, Connecticut. There's Fort Wayne, Indiana. There's Bowling Green, Kentucky. This is going to be, it's an ongoing program that AARP is doing. The third, October the 17th, Thursday evening, SWACA is celebrating its 50th anniversary of service, and they're having a party at the inn at Longshore from 5 to 8, and we know that SWACA provides great service to our community. And so that's another event. And finally, on November the 19th, Tuesday, November 19th, the Connecticut Area on Aging is going to have its second summit at AquaTurf in Plantsville. And again, the focus there is going to be on loneliness and isolation. So these are there are 4 events, I think, that are significant. The next thing I wanted to mention was the Darien Library had its annual meeting this past Sunday. And they have an annual report, and I'd encourage you to get one. I just would encourage you to get one. 13% increase in library visits last year. They're up to 240,000 visitors at the Darien Library. Crazy number, 22% increase in documents notarized. They notarized 2,371 documents. And to me, that's really interesting that we're still notarizing stuff, and again, it's going up, and so they're doing that. They answered 102,000 questions at the library. They're planning to do Tax 8 next year. They've got their obituary index up now. It goes back to 1902. And I think the interesting thing is, when you really think about it, is that while the town funds 78% of that library, 23% is funded by us. The 23%, because that's where all of the books, the town does not provide the books, video services, that all comes from funding. And this year they raised $750,000. And the good news is they've added 250 new donors. So again, it's really important. I think the library is a keystone in our community for sure, but it does require our support. Wheel It Forward, which Ali mentioned, again provides medical equipment services. Has opened it has a facility, they call it a library actually, in Stamford, in a warehouse in Stamford. It's not too far away, it's really worth looking at. It's all run by volunteers. They have a second location in Bridgeport. I'm trying to help them get a location in Newtown. And one of the things they want to do, and I will try to follow up with Ali, is to establish stronger connections with senior centers around the state. And that's important. And the fascinating thing about Wheel It Forward was that Elliot Sawyer, the founder, discovered Wheel It Forward in Israel. In Israel, there are 800 centers where medical equipment is provided, and no one pays anything, and it's all run by volunteers. And when he saw that over there, he said, you know what, with medical equipment being so expensive and so part-time used, if you will, why not do it here? So it's a remarkable and very important thing when you realize how, I know I've had to buy some equipment over time, how expensive it is, and how, if you're healthy, you're finished with it, and then what do you do with it? Finally, 2 more things. Connecticut voting, a few dates for our friends watching. Friday, October the 4th, absentee ballots are available. Friday, October the 18th is the last day to register to vote by mail. Monday, October 21st is the first day of early voting, so we can vote in this town for the presidential election starting on Monday, October 21st. Sunday, November the 3rd is the last day of early voting, and Monday, November the 4th, the day before the actual election, is the last day to request an absentee ballot. And of course, the election day is Tuesday, November the 5th, 6 a.m. to 8. Important that we vote. We've never had an opportunity to do it so easy, and we're now essentially catching up with the rest of our country. But there is on the ballot a proposed constitutional amendment, which is written finally very simply, is shall the Constitution of the state be amended to allow each vote to vote by absentee ballot, each voter to vote by absentee. So we definitely want to do that, so we don't have to anymore go through all of these steps to get an absentee ballot. I talked to Corey Freight yesterday, and I asked him, given all of these events, that you need help. He said he looks like it's pretty much covered, but in the town hall, office of the registrar, they have forms there. They would welcome anybody going in and trying to volunteer for walking in. So we're gonna be able to walk into town hall and vote. That, of course, has to be staffed by volunteers.
Peter, I just want to add, October 9th, it is our town clerks coming and our representatives of our registrar of voters, and they're going to do a whole presentation on early voting to answer questions. There's a dinner stoner that's giving 25 complimentary lunches to encourage people to come to that as well, but it's at from 12:30 to 1:30. So they have a presentation, they have a PowerPoint presentation, and then they're gonna do questions and answers for people who feel uncomfortable and don't know all the good things that you know about early voting.
Good.
So that'll help too.
And then the final thing, and maybe I'll ask Beth to pass it up. I missed the July meeting, and Beth was kind enough to put out the legislative report, acts affecting seniors. And I was very disappointed to hear from her that nobody on this commission took a copy. Shame on us.
Oh, come on, Peter. This is something you can access online, not shame on us. I will refuse that kind of crap.
I apologize for that remark.
Good, thank you.
Okay, but we should look at it and we should talk about it because there are a lot of things that happened and didn't happen in the last legislative period. And I made some notes about some of those, and again, I know we're under the time pressure, I am as well. Maybe we should just defer that till next month.
Let's defer that to October, good call.
We can go over that at this point in time.
This is online.
Okay.
Other old business? Any new business? Hearing none, may I have a motion to close the meeting of the Commission. I do thanks everybody for coming.